Thank you for coming to our panel. Cool. Sounds good. Well, welcome to the panel for the judges at #Con. Yay! Woo! So I am Fire Lily. I have been cosplaying since 2004. I am incredibly old. You wouldn't know it. Which is great. I cosplay a whole lot of stuff, like movies, cartoons, video games, you name it, it's there. Armor, sewing, lights, a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I have a very large repertoire. So in the works, I think Katsucon's coming up, and I'm going to be making Rosa from Final Fantasy. Oh my god, which one is that? 5? The one with the thing, yes. So Rosa, my friend is going to be Rydia, so it'll be great. So lots of more sparkles and Amano stuff. Yay!
I'll take a second and introduce myself.
My name is Shoujo-A-Go-Go. I'm the self-proclaimed champion of love, justice, and glitter. You may know me from a little thing called Super Art Fight, which is the greatest live art competition in the known universe. And I've been cosplaying for well over a decade at this point. I love doing masquerades, I love doing all sorts of performance stuff, and I love drag. So anything you see, like as far as drag goes, I want to do it. Obviously today, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be my favorite Barbie, the superstar Barbie from 1988. Woo! She'd been my favorite, but I also enjoy dressing up as Nurse Joy, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Yakuza series. I have a Goromi. I sure do. But yeah, I love doing all sorts of off-the-wall stuff with whatever I can find in my house. So let me go ahead and pass the mic on.
Hello, how is everyone doing? Yeah, #Con! Hello, I am Casey, or Mangoloo Cosplays. I've been cosplaying for about a decade. It's my full-time job. I make costumes all the time. My personal favorite costumes are the monster costumes. I love making gajinkas of things like Godzilla or aliens, the xenomorph. I've done gremlins. I love really silly costumes. Like I love Yakuza. It is my obsession right now. I have cosplayed Majima because he's my favorite ever. Yeah, and he's everywhere. I have also cosplayed really silly things. Like I have cosplayed the fish from Animal Crossing. Because why not? I love unique things. I love being silly and fun. And I'm so glad that you all are here. And we're having this awesome, cool experience. And we get to help answer your questions today. So thank you for being here.
And if you don't have questions for us, we'll ask you questions.
Yes.
There's a pop quiz at the end. I hope you're prepared to take notes.
Yep. I hope you're taking notes.
But who would like to start us off with a question? Good, great. I'm feeling fantastic. Life in plastic is fantastic. It is absolutely true.
I just noticed we're all blonde. We're all blonde.
We can all be Barbie.
I'm a fangirl. Sorry. I was fangirling out. Yeah, we are all blondes.
I'm Barbie Heimer.
Yeah,
Tank Girl.
exactly.
Yeah, I got the bomb right here.
It's true.
And the blonde hair. So I'm going to see both movies. Like I'm just going to watch the beginning of Barbie, sleep through it, and then catch the end of Oppenheimer, where they do the explosion.
I'll see both. Just give me a picture of mimosas. I'm there.
And she's just had a question.
So just to restate the question, just in case people didn't hear it, what is the thing that people spend too much money on with cosplay in the beginning, and what's the thing that people spend not enough money on in the beginning of cosplay? Would you like to start us off?
I don't know that I'm really. I don't know that I can really answer that. So I have always made my own costumes, like everything. I make everything. I really love crafting and creating. So I'm not one of the people who would go out and like buy a costume. I'm not sure that I'm really qualified to have it. I don't really have an opinion on that. I guess I'm not really cued into what a lot of the younger cosplayers are doing today. I know there's a lot of Genshin Impact out there. A lot of Genshin Impact. So I'm not sure if like buying from a lot of this. Oh my God, there's one. We are all Genshin Impact. I assume that the sellers out there aren't trying to pull one over on you guys, and that the prices are generally really good. But I honestly have no idea.
It's an interesting question because honestly, there's so many different skill levels and so many different ways that you can solve one creative problem. I know for me, when I was starting out, I tried not to spend a lot of money on wigs. You see how that happened, how that went. But because I was learning how to style wigs and do things like that, I know you want to go out and spend like 50, 60 bucks on like a really expensive wig, but really if you practice on like some of the cheaper wigs, you can start to develop your technique and figure it out as you go.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. That's better for my mindset. So a lot of the people who are okay, and please forgive me, but I do not buy any of the Yaya Han cosplay fabrics. Like what she's doing is wonderful. I think it's great that she's getting out there and bringing the cosplay name into like the modern home and things like that. But her fabrics are so expensive. Please, like unless you're using a coupon or you're getting it on discount, like you can go to mom and pop shops. You can go to smaller fabric stores, warehouses. Like you can even go to, God forbid, Hobby Lobby. But you can go places that do have a lot of cheaper fabric. Don't buy muslin. Don't ever buy muslin from fabric stores. Use bed sheets, okay? Like go to like secondhand stores or garage sales and just buy old sheets and use those for your mock-ups. Don't buy muslin at like $7, $8, $9, $10 a yard. It's ridiculous. I mean, don't do it. But you can always find cheaper ways of getting fabric. Go to thrift shops, buy huge dresses, buy sheets and bed sheets and like all sorts of curtains and things like that. You can always make something out of curtains. Like be Maria from Sound of Music.
Yeah, exactly. Like what I have on is pretty much made of remnants. This is like stuff at the end of the bolt. You get it at half price. And I was able to buy enough to make all of this. My wig is 2 Amazon wigs fighting for supremacy, zip-tied together for all of eternity. But you don't have to have a lot of money in order to do a lot of cosplay stuff. Let me go ahead and hand this to you.
Speaking of having a lot of money and having things to spend it on, for cosplay, I know a lot of cosplayers tend to see all these professional cosplayers using really fancy equipment, really expensive equipment, embroidery machines, the 3D printers. A lot of cosplayers feel the need that they have to have it, but you don't. You can get away with finding different ways to build things. Like for instance, instead of having a 3D printed maybe dagger from Skyrim, you can take cardboards or the poster boards, cut it out nice, so give it a nice paint job, and like you can get something that like you'd have just as good as
boxes, baby.
Yeah, the Amazon boxes are really good. Yeah, my first prop was a prop dagger from Skyrim, and it was poster board, and it looked legit. And it beat me having to try to figure out some $400 3D printer to figure out how to print some random prop. You don't want that $300 paperweight.
Like, don't be afraid to try to make things. Even if you don't know how to do it, there's this thing called YouTube and this other thing called Google, and it can show you some amazing ways to make stuff. So, again, don't be afraid to make things. Try, fail. You'll eventually try, succeed. Next question? Yes. So just to restate the question, as a beginner cosplayer, what was the thing you struggled with the most?
So starting out in 2004, which is a very, very long time ago, I was in college. I'd never gone to an anime con before. A friend of mine was like, "Oh my God, they're having this convention. People dressed up," and I was like, "I'm there. I'm sold. I'm going. I'm doing it." I had no idea what I was doing. I'd sewn a bit as a kid, like hand sewing, little doll clothes, stuff like that, real easy stuff. But I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it. And like back in the day, we couldn't buy costumes because nobody was making them. We couldn't buy wigs because nobody was making them. We had exactly 3 colors of wigs: blonde, brunette, white. We had like, none of these amazing colors and fabrics and things like that. We had cotton, satin. You have to use the wrong side of the satin because the shiny side is evil. So it was hard, one, to kind of, as a college student with no income, to be like, how do I do this? What do I do? So secondhand stores were my friend. Going thrifting and finding pieces that I could use to put together or as a basis that I could add to. I ended up doing Etna from Disgaea. She's got this really crazy hair. She's got this very, like the little bat wings on her top, and she's got this cute little skirt with like the Ugg shoes with like the faces on it and everything. And I just had so much fun literally cobble potting everything together and like painting the boots, and like it was so much fun. But definitely having no income was difficult, and trying to figure out how to make things on a shoestring budget, especially because I wanted it to look nice, and I didn't want to look like I just picked it out of a trash can or something. And then that got better with time. I learned how to budget my money to be able to afford certain things like nicer wigs or the supplies that I would need, like cutting shears and like gels and things like that to help style so that I could do better with crappier materials. So do the best with what you get. So I would say that was my struggle, was being super poor and not being able to really be able to spend what I wanted to, but still trying to make it look as good as I could. So I will also say that I didn't have a sewing machine, so like the first 3 or 4 costumes I made, I hand sewed. So that in and of itself was challenging, but not unheard of. So my mom eventually gave me one for my birthday, and I still didn't use it because I was terrified of it. So I finally sat down and was like, I'm going to learn to use it. I did.
I would say for me, the biggest struggle was, well, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I'm kind of a big girl. And a lot of cosplays, especially like, cosplays weren't really made with big people in mind. And it kind of forced me to go into the creative realm of patterning. So it's like, I got to figure out how to make this work with my body. Let me take some clothes that I know fit. Let me, start making stuff with that. But yeah, because originally, because of my size, I couldn't find a lot of things like off the rack. Like when you're larger, it's hard to go like thrifting for like a dress that fits or a pair of pants that fits. So you kind of have to figure out how to either modify things that already exist, or you have to make it yourself. And like being able to like trace my t-shirts and like figure it out. Like I didn't buy a pattern for any of this. I had to kind of like figure it out. But I like that kind of creative problem solving. Yeah, that's true, because a lot of commercial patterns run undersized, like US 12 or 14. Not to put my numbers out there, but I'm like a 2022. So I would need like 2 of those patterns to make one big girl pattern. And it don't work that way. So you also can find, if you do work off of a commercial pattern, you have to figure out like, okay, where can I add space in the seams and make this work for my body? But it's also been a great journey, because it's like I started like really liking my body, and that it was unique, and that I could make these things for me, only me. It was actually like really empowering. So the struggle became empowering. So don't let your size, don't let like your abilities, don't let any of that stop you. Just do the thing. Just do the thing.
That's really good advice. I'd have to say my biggest struggle when I first started cosplay was really overwhelming. I wanted to take on some really big projects, and I didn't know anything. Like, I maybe took a little bit of a sewing class back in high school, but I didn't really understand, how do I make a Nightingale from Skyrim? How do I put together Starfire from Teen Titans? What do I do? So I had a really hard time trying to figure out, how do I get all these skills? Well, first of all, it's okay to not know what you're doing. Like, I do this professionally, and I still run into things that I have no idea how to do. Thankfully, we live in a day and age where we have a lot of information that's extremely accessible. So I remember, like, when I first started my Nightingale, which is an armor cosplay from Skyrim. It is top to bottom armor. The whole thing's covered. I went online and I searched how to do armor. I looked at specific cosplay builds and I referenced how they did theirs, because some of them would put up tutorials. I looked up things that were kind of maybe similar, like maybe there's another character in the game who had armor that kind of looked like what I wanted, and I can be like, okay, well, they patterned it this way. I could probably do that to mine as well. Also, like, the community is your resource. So you can reach out to cosplayers. You can talk to them at cons. Like, if there are questions, like, oh, how'd you do this? Like, how'd you do your hat? Or how'd you do your shoes? Like, you can certainly ask them, like, on the con floor, or, like, in a formal setting like we are at a panel today. So you guys are so lucky. You have, like, the internet and, like, all these things. Like, we're here to help you. Like, feel free to reach out to people and ask questions. Look at YouTube. Like, there's so many tutorials, and it's fine to feel, like, overwhelmed and confused, because, like, we've all been there. So, yeah.
I love when cosplayers do, like, the dogs sniffing each other's butts things of, like, ooh, how'd you make this thing? Let me look at your seams. How'd you make that? What do you mean that's a box? You know, like, we start kind of asking each other questions and poking around. But let's move on to the next question. Yes. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Tina. Yes. So my wig is all EVA foam. So what I did was I essentially made what amounts to a bald cap. It is about 2 mil foam that is wrapped around my head, and then I patterned out like little banana pieces, I like to call them, because each of these pieces look like little bananas. So they're approximately they can range between about 4 millimeters to about 10. And like sometimes I stack them and like shave them down. And it's a whole bunch of those layered on top of one another. And then for the structural part, like to have it like fold down like this here, so it like makes that curve, I actually cut in grooves so the foam wants to bend better, because naturally the foam wants to be straight, and when you put it on a curve, like you'll have the issue with the foam kind of like billowing up. So I cut in little grooves, like it kind of reminds of like gills on a fish, I guess. So I put that through the center and along the sides, so you can't really see it on the outer part. And then I take floral wire and I tape that in, and then the floral wire kind of helps shape it. And then of course it's all painted, hex flexed, which is the primer, which is a flexible primer, so if it does move, it's fine. And then painted to hell and back. But yeah, like it's essentially a helmet. Yeah. Ta-da! It's all together. But yeah, all foam. Like you can also use things like fabric. Like I've made a Splatoon wig. I've done Callie, which she has the long tentacle things. Yeah, you can hold my head. There you go. Well, I guess this feels great. So my Callie wig is upholstery foam, which is the green foam that you can get at Joann's. Is that like really thick ones that they use for like furnitures and that kind of thing. I shaped that one down and I wrapped it in, I believe it was 2-way or 4-way stretch vinyl, so it kind of stretched around. And the reason why I used the upholstery foam for that was so it has flexibility. This does not flex. Like this is stiff. This is a helmet. If you're doing like a longer wig, you'd want to do the upholstery foam. If you're doing something shorter, that's not going to move around as much. EVA foam. So you can even use things like foam clay. Although be very careful with it because if you use a lot in like one section, it kind of deforms a little bit. It takes forever to dry. And sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain. But yeah, like foam works great for these.
All right. Jesus.
Hexflex. Yes, it is Hexflex. I believe TNT Cosplay Supplies sells it. They have all different types of like specific like Hexflex paints that are like colored. So if you need the base to be like red, you can start with a red one. Or you can start with like a yellow one. I think I did yellow for mine, and then I painted on top of it.
I'm going to throw in one other thing. I've also worked with Eva Foam in the past. If you've seen like the promo pictures of me with like the big donut armor, that's Eva Foam. That I actually used Flex or Plastiflex, which is what you use like for cars. So you can actually use that as a primer on the Eva Foam to get it like really nice and smooth. And then as far as paints go, you can just use acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is plastic. It's literal plastic. So like for that particular piece, I did little drips with acrylic paint to look like icing. And then for like the piped icing, I used like, I guess it was like a plumber's caulk. It was like something that was flexible enough that it could bend and stick with the Eva Foam without like flaking off, and it still looked like big sugary icing chunks. So again, with Eva Foam, there's like multiple ways you can do stuff, which is exciting. Do you have any Eva Foam tips?
Well, back in my day, no. So a long, long time ago, when people first started making cosplay armor, we didn't have EVA foam. We had foamy sheets. Yes, and so you could buy them in like a 12 by 18 size, and you'd have to, glue them all together. And then when they finally came out with like the larger sheets, everyone was just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" But still, like there was one person, a light in the beacon of like a beacon in the darkness. Her name is Penwiper, and she came up with this amazing tutorial after the Lord of the Rings movies. And she made this Lothlorien armor, like these vambraces, and everyone referenced her tutorial because it was so good, and it still stands up today. I started my armor, experience using her tutorial, and it's been like. It's been about 20 years since that came out, but it's like she's like, okay, so you have a fabric backing that you put on the foam, and then you can heat it up and you can form it, and then you can coat it with like Mod Podge or some kind of a watered down glue, and then you can coat it and you can paint it and do all this stuff to it. And it was like it took a very, very, very long time. And nowadays people are like, yeah, you just spray this shit on it and it's done. And I'm like, oh wow, that's like amazing. But yeah, I've done some armor in my day. It just took a lot longer than it takes nowadays. And now you have different widths. Now you can have 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter, 4, 6, 8, 10. Like, oh my God, there's so many different. And there's Warbler, and there's Foss Shape. Foss Shape is amazing. Yeah, Warbler is amazing. You got Warbler Clear. Clear Warbler. Oh my God, you got Pearl Warbler. Like, it's incredible.
What's this resin thing you got?
Resin. All right. Any other questions? You, sir. Take your time. No worries.
Listen, I have anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm with you right now.
Okay, that's a great question. So, how does cosplay help us in social interactions, and how have our social interactions been kind of shaped by cosplay? So, again, a very, very long time ago. I feel like I should just have the Star Wars thing on, like, in the back. A long, long time ago. So, so way, way back in the day when we couldn't buy costumes and we were literally just making it out of, like, bed sheets and hot glue and staples and stuff, like, you would go to a con and someone would be dressed up from the same thing as you, and you would see each other across the hall and you would run to each other. You'd just be like, oh my God, we're from the same thing. Oh my God, I love you. You look amazing. And you would get pictures together and you were best friends. And you would always see each other at cons, or you would be like, oh my God, I'm going to this con. Are you going to go? I was like, yes, oh my God, I'm going to go too. And it was like camp. It was like going to camp. And yeah, you were on LiveJournal or you were on MySpace, and you'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to the con. I'm going to see my friend. Oh my God. And so you made these really crazy lifelong friendships. I'm still friends with people I met 20 years ago. And it's really weird because I'm like, oh my God, do you remember that con? They're like, I remember that con. And you know, it helped that it was such a small niche thing. You know, it wasn't now where we've got like RuPaul's Drag Race, and you've got, you know, Heroes of Cosplay, and you've got, like, you know, people going to all these amazing conventions around the entire world. But back then it was you maybe went to 1 or 2 a year, and it was, you saw all your friends, that your con friends that nobody knew about. And you were just like, I'm going to go see them, and I can be myself, and I can, like, oh, it's going to be amazing. And you could geek out for an entire weekend, and they were there with you. And, like, that was very special, incredibly special, very precious. And as cons evolved, it got bigger. They started having more. You got more money. You could travel to other ones, and you started meeting more people, and you realizing that that this is bigger than just you and your friend. That this is everyone out there has the need to connect with other people who like the same stuff, and people who like the same character, who like the same show. And I feel like cosplay has definitely helped. And most of my friends now are people that I met on the convention scene. Like, I would say that a good, like, 60 to 70% of my friends I met through cosplay. I wouldn't have them today if I wasn't a cosplayer, and they're really, really good friendships. But they helped me grow as a person to just be better, you know. And everyone, when you're, you know, 18, 20, 25, whatever, like 20s to 30s now is like the decade where you are figuring yourself out. And it is really hard to navigate in these times, really, really hard. And I feel like those friendships helped me be much better than I would have been.
Yeah. Like, for me, just to be completely transparent, I live with general anxiety disorder, and I also have obsessive compulsive disorder. And not the cute kind where you think like, oh, I need to line this up at a 90-degree angle, and I'm a germaphobe, so I have to wash my hands. No, it's like weird body tics and things like that, where it's like, I'm really stressed out. I'm going to scratch my scalp and things like that. So for me to be in like a convention setting like this, if it was the me from like 15, 20 years ago, I was so incredibly awkward, and I didn't even understand what was going on in this electric cam up here. Like, I didn't understand how I was wired. But what I could do was I could channel myself into expressing myself creatively through cosplay. That I knew how to do. So I wouldn't necessarily have to talk to people. What I put on my body, how I portray myself, that's how I'm expressing myself to the world. I'm also an artist. I have a table here. My partner and I have been doing comics for well over a decade at this point. But that was like a way that I could control how I could engage with people, because it's like I have my little table and people come to me and they talk to me. And if I need to step away and take care of whatever's going on in my head, I have the freedom to do that. So it allowed me to express myself and still take control of the situation that I couldn't before. And I've been fortunate. Like I've been doing artist alleys since 2005. I'm an old lady, but I will always be grateful to conventions and cosplay, because it allowed me to open my world. It allowed me to take a look at myself and figure out, how am I going to say the things I want to say, and how can I meet the people that I want to meet? That's how I address those things.
Hello. So dogs that get real excited, or you scare them and they pee themselves a little bit. Yeah, that's me. So I am that dog. So before cosplay, actually, believe it or not, I was actually very shy. I had so much anxiety. I didn't have a whole lot of friends growing up, and I wasn't really sure of myself. I was I don't know who to share what I loved with, or that kind of thing. I was very introverted, but wanting to be extroverted. I wanted to have a community to share what I love, and to be who I want to be, and to meet people. And cosplay gave that to me. I found out that, I didn't find out till college, so it took me all of high school. So get to college, my friends peer pressured me to go to KatsuCon, and I learned about a whole world of cosplay where you get to essentially be somebody else for the day, and I think that's what I needed, because I was so afraid of me for a long time. So I was like, I don't get to be me today. I can be Tina, and she's wild and she's crazy, and I don't have to be quiet Casey. I can be wild Tina. So I did that, and I got to meet the community. I went to panels, I went to fan meetups and things the photo shoot gatherings. I love those. It really pushed me to come out of my shell, to go and meet people who liked the same things I liked. So I wasn't going up to someone being oh gosh, will they talking about things Gundam with me, or dinosaurs, or Borderlands. I know if I'm going to this Gundam thing, they're all gonna like Gundam, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine, fan. So it really opened my eyes to there are other people who are like me out there, who have the same passions. They're also probably scared too, and trying to understand themselves, and we're just here to have fun. So yeah, cosplay completely changed my life. So now instead of just being so introverted, I'm very extroverted. I love meeting people, and cosplay just gave me a whole new view of things, and has allowed me to accept myself for who I am and what I love. So yeah, cosplay has a special place in my heart. Cosplay's good.
That was a great two-pronged question, by the way. Anybody else? Yes. Oh, I love this. I'm going to let you start. I got to think.
Okay, so just to okay, so just to reiterate, how does cosplay help as, I guess, a springboard for like diversifying and like helping to bring people into a fandom or a community of fandoms. So I think ultimately everybody is always, regardless of whether they are actively thinking about it or not, they're always looking for a safe space. They're looking for a safe person. They're looking for something that make them feel comfortable, so that they can kind of forget their worries for a time. They can relax. They can be safe. And I feel that cosplay, fandom, being around people who like the same things you do. I hear that song out there, and everybody knows the Spice Girls, right? Okay, right. So we all know the Spice Girls. Spice Girls are awesome. We feel better when we hear the Spice Girls. We feel awesome when we're talking about our favorite games or we're excited about our favorite characters. And I feel that if we can share that with others, that regardless of our backgrounds or our history or what's going on up here or what's going on at home or, you know, things going on with your parents or what's going on at work, it doesn't matter, because you can connect with other people over this love, this admiration, this yearning that you have to be with other people. And like that's a lot. That's a lot. And you know, it really irritates me to see, and I guess it crops up every couple of years where people are like, you really shouldn't be cosplaying that. You're not such and such. It's like it's such a shitty thing to do. Like, that's what cosplay is about. You can be whoever you want to be. You can dress how you want to dress. You can act how you want to act. You can be the character. You can be Barbie. You can be Bratz. You can be Genshin Impact. Like, it doesn't matter. And it certainly does not matter what this looks like. You can be God, okay? But it certainly does not matter where you come from or what you look like. It doesn't matter how big you are, skinny you are, how tall, how short. Like, you can be whatever character you want to be. And I think it's such a small way of thinking to think, well, you don't look just like that character. It's like, who cares? I'm doing this because I like it. It's like, no, I'm not a 6 foot tall JoJo skinny ass man who can like, no, I can't do that, but I love the character. I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear it. And who are you to say that I can't do it? I want to share my love of this so that I can connect with other people over my love of this. You know, it's like, you don't have to be, you know, super white and skinny and blonde to be a princess. Like, anybody can be a princess. Anybody can be. That wasn't the point. You can be a prince if you want to. Like, you don't have to, you know, cosplay is about so much more than what people just ascribe it to. It's like, I feel like it's so short-sighted and small-minded for people to be like, you don't fit the character, you shouldn't cosplay that. And to be like, I'm gonna fucking wear this if I want to. You know, and I'm sorry, I'm really big on the cuss words. I am too old for that shit. So, and I try and speak out against injustices if I see people like coming down on someone for wearing something they shouldn't. I'm like, you can go fuck off. Like, get out of here. Like, you let them wear what they want to wear. It makes them feel good. It makes them happy. Let them do it.
Yeah. I'll piggyback off of that a little bit because I think it's really, we see a lot of the phrase representation matters. Like, it does, but I want to refine that a little bit because I think it's more than that. It's embodying the representation that you want to see. So be the change you want to see in the world. Cosplay whatever you want. Have fun. It's actually, it's like drag where there's like this punk element to it, where we're dressed as our favorite characters and we're kind of throwing up the middle finger at people who are like, aren't you a little old for that? Aren't you a little fat for that? Aren't you a little insert race here for that? Like, that's a bunch of mess. Don't even. Just go out, do the thing, be the change you want to see in the world, because you may be the one sitting up here someday telling the next generation what they're going to be doing and how they can do it. So that's all I have to say on that.
Yes. Yeah. Cosplay is about having fun, y'all. It's about having fun. No one's going to police you about what you can or cannot wear. It's about having fun.
And if they do, they're dumb.
Yeah, if they do, they're dumb.
Big, dumb, stinky heads.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Next question. Any other questions? Jesus, I see you. Let's hear it. Shout out to MagFest. Do not put acrylic paint on your skin. Gotcha. I know you can answer this question. Also, Barbie in the audience can answer this question because she just did a makeup panel that was phenomenal.
All right, so yeah, don't put acrylic on your body. It will crack and it will be awful and you won't have a fun time. So there's multiple ways you could do this. My personal favorite is using eyeliners. I like using liquid eyeliner because it's easier to draw the stuff. It's kind of like a pen. There are various flavors of eyeliner. You got your super thin, skinny ones. You have the thicker ones. You have like felt tip. You have the brush on. There's all different kinds. Like if you go to like a makeup store and you're like, oh yeah, like I need help like testing out these eyeliners. Typically like Ulta, Sephora, they have stuff out that like you can test so you will know which one I'm more comfortable with. My personal favorite, I like to use Tarte liquid eyeliner for my lines because it has just enough thickness that it's pretty bold. There's also liners that are a bit thinner, KVD has one that's super thin. I've used that for things like super thin wings or like cyber lines, like on cyberpunk kind of costumes. You can also, if you're not really comfortable with eyeliners, you can get body paint. There are various brands of body paint that like, you can use. You can get like the liquid ones that come in like the little jars. There's also the ones that are like the cake ones. They're the water activated ones. You get like a little brush and you can brush stroke it on. There is also the eyeliners that are the pencils that you can do. Those I find a little difficult though because sometimes they do kind of break. But if you're more comfortable with a pencil, definitely go with a pencil. With the Borderlands lines, like you just kind of wing it. Like you just you just wing it. Like there's lines everywhere, and everyone has a different style and a different preference of how they like to do their lines. So definitely practice with it. I definitely recommend going to like a makeup store and like testing the products out to see which product works for you, so you know what you're more comfortable to do.
Yeah, I think that was great. Anybody else? Any other questions? Ooh, do we get to ask questions now? Oh, we have a question. Saved by Genshin Impact. Well, let's be clear. You're a professional.
Yeah. I guess so.
You do cosplay for a living.
Yes, I do.
Okay. I do not do cosplay for a living. I'm in finance. I'm finance by day, cosplay by night. She is the one named Sailor Jacked Up. You know. But
Yeah, and I'm just a hobbyist. Like I just do this for fun. So, but to your point, like
gotcha. So the question is about being on a journey of doing like, we'll call it semi-professional. We'll call it semi-professional by like doing panels and making appearances and things like that. I'll start this one just because I kind of have a weird background. So I didn't start doing things like this conventionally. I came from the improv background with Super Art Fight. Shoujo, who is my persona, is actually a character I developed in use with Super Art Fight, and then it just kind of branched out from there. So I've just been in the community for so long. I think they're like, oh, that's right. There's that girl with the donuts. We should have her do something. So I think it was just really like networking with people and finding people. Otherwise, like I'd probably be feral out in the artist alley going, buy me stuff, you know.
So back when I started cosplaying, again, just kind of started making costumes and, eventually started competing. And so I think 2006 was my first competition, and I ended up winning Best in Show. Okay, I was a novice. I had never competed in anything before, and I went in there, and they gave me, like, Best in Show. Like, do you know what that does to you? It's insane. So much pressure to do better and to go bigger and to do more and to enter more competitions. So between 2006 and 2008, I ended up, like, essentially grand slamming and winning almost 10 competitions. Like, it was insane. And then in 2008, I went to Anime Mid-Atlantic, and I ended up winning 3 awards at the Masquerade. I won like Best in Masterclass, Best in Show, and then the Chairman's Award. And I was like, you're not going to let me compete again. And they're like, no, you're going to judge for us. So the next year, I was a judge, and then that just snowballed into me. I was judged for Anime Mid-Atlantic, for Katsucon, for Otakon, for Tekko Shokon, for like a whole bunch of other conventions. And eventually they were like, hey, do you want to help run the cosplay at Katsucon? So I helped run the Katsucon cosplay for 10 years. I was the head judge and the judge wrangler, so I picked the judges. I got them where they needed to go. I kept them on time. I made sure that everything ran smoothly, and that at the end of the Masquerade, we only got like 20 minutes to deliberate all the winners, which took, oh my God, it was so much pressure. So 10 years was my limit. But I served my time. So, but I was very fortunate in that competition was actually the key to me staffing at other cons. And so if you are interested in going that route and being a costume judge, by all means, like, I kind of made like a little name for myself like in the mid-aughts. So like definitely by 2010, 2012, like people were like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Like, come judge for us. I'm like, okay, that's weird. All right, I'll come. So now I do it because I like giving back to the community. I like showing up for people. I like answering their questions. I like hanging out with new cosplayers, old cosplayers, staffers, and everything. I'm like, yeah, please put me to work. Like, I'm happy to help you. But being available is definitely one of the key things that you can do. Volunteer, and don't necessarily volunteer at a big con that isn't going to pay you. The little ones are the best ones because you get to know people, like the people who own the companies and who own the hotels and who are in charge of things, and the vendor, all that other stuff. The more people you know, the more likely you are to be able to be like, oh, hey, do you need somebody? I can come and help you. And you just kind of sidle up there and be like, yeah, so now I work for you. This is great. So, yeah, I hate saying that it's who you know, but it is a little bit who you know. If you can get in there and start chatting with people and being like, oh, yeah, I know you. I remember I did this. And cosplay is a great thing. You'd be like, oh my God, you were in that costume and I totally met you. And they were like, oh yes, I remember you were in that costume. You're so cool. And it's a facade. You're not really cool. You seem like you're cool. So they're like, oh yeah, here, come work for me. Yeah. 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 So that's my advice. Just, be available, volunteer, like get involved in the scene. Like there is never a convention that will say, no, we don't need people. Like you can be like, do you need a volunteer to help you like wrangle people on stage or off stage? Yes. Do you need people on security? Yes. Like do you need people like in your vendors room? Yes. Like they're always gonna say yes for people. So yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off that. Networking is so important. Like, if you want jobs in the cosplay realm, networking is the key. You don't have to be the best Spider-Man. You don't have to be the best Superman. You just got to know people. I am dead serious. You just got to know people. So like when you go to cons, like things like this, go make a good impression. Go meet people. Go volunteer for things. Like you made some excellent points about getting involved with your community. It is key. Like the community is so big when you are in this professionally, because they're going to be around you from the time you start and the time you're done, till the time you eventually retire. If you're retiring, I guess you might not retire because you like cosplay so much. But yes, for my journey, for getting from hobbyist to professional, I can't tell you that it was easy. It was not easy. It was long and hard. You got to have the dedication for it. You got to know that there might be some rough times, and you just have to be strong enough to like push past it, and know that you'll have people behind you to support you. There's a whole community. Again, community is so important. It is so important in the entire realm of cosplay, whether you do it hobbyist or professional, whatever. Very important. But yeah, definitely, like if you do want to eventually get to a more professional point for cosplay to transition to that, just be involved with your community. That's essentially what you can do. Put the time in, and you'll get a reward back.
Sweat equity.
Yeah, sweat equity.
I do have one last thing to say that's relevant for not just cosplay, but anything you do. Don't be a jerk. I'm serious, because people will remember that. Doesn't matter how big or small the con is. If you act like a prima donna and you're being a jerk to people around you, they will remember that. And that's a real easy way not to get invited back to do things. It's like, oh, you want to bring that person in? Why don't we go ask this nice person who was easy to work with, and, you know, their stuff was fantastic. Let's go with them. So just throwing that out there. How are we on time? 4:54. That's about it. Well, I guess you guys don't get to answer our questions then. You're so lucky. Mine was very complicated. Mine involved the Fermat's theorem. That's a math joke. Smart joke. Da-da-da-da-da-da. But if y'all have any other questions, obviously we're going to be walking around tonight. Some of us have tables, some of us don't. We're going to be wandering around out there. Don't hesitate to come up to us, say hello, ask some questions. And we can't wait to see what everybody puts on the stage tonight. So excited. Yeah. So thank you all so much for coming, and enjoy #Con.